Let's kick it off. I'm your host, Steve, and I'm joined by Ash and Az, and we have a lot to talk about this week. So a week ago, Ruben Amorim was sacked, and since then we've had 2 games, a draw against Burnley and a defeat against Brighton in the FA Cup. And then following that FA Cup defeat, the news started to emerge that Michael Carrick is the number 1 contender for not the interim role, which Fletcher's had, but the interim role until the end of the season. It looks like Carrick is set to secure that officially within the next 48 hours. So I think that's pretty much done. So I think we'll start there and then we'll come to the football, unfortunately. So my mate, Michael Carrick.
Yeah, happy about that in terms of name. Actually, is it interim or is the technical term caretaker?
Don't know. I think everyone's confused about.
I'm going with. I think caretaker feels like.
Used to be caretaker back in the day, didn't it?
You know, like as in the first guy that comes in, Fletcher.
Yeah.
The internal guy. He's like your caretaker.
That's what I was thinking.
Carrick's now the interim.
Fair.
And then we'll go with the permanent. Yeah, I would have probably, myself, my own views, would have gone with an Ollie and Carrick. That would have been my preference. I think they worked well together in the last spell. I think the United job as well, it's so big that I hope he's not burdened by... I mean, Amorim seemed to be having an interview with Sky every other week, or it's just continuous, right, that you have so much work to do outside of the actual coaching. But as
one interview as...
No, but he seemed to constantly be answering questions, right, to various parts of the press, and you just think that that part of the job's overwhelming. And I hope that he's got a good team behind him. I don't know. Is there any news in terms of who's backing him, right? Because you need the team.
Yeah, I mean, early indications are Fletcher will hang around the first team in some capacity, possibly as a coach. I've also seen reports of Jonathan Woodgate, who worked with Carrick at Middlesbrough, coming in, and also Jonathan Woodgate worked with Wilcox, played with Wilcox at Leeds. So there's a connection there, which I'm sure Wilcox
What next? Tim Sherwood's going to come.
I know.
Exactly.
Did he play with
Leeds
Wilcox
and
at
Man City
Blackburn?
Rio played with Wilcox as well, so he should get a job, right?
Oh, dear. Yeah, but, I heard good things generally about Carrick at Middlesbrough. Then he obviously gets fired. One thing I'm always worried about, and why I was saying an Ollie, or, been reading your Christmas present that you got me, your Gareth Southgate.
Sorry. Just on that, do you remember the note that Secret Santa left you both?
Oh, no.
Remember
I have it around
lines
me?
of...
I don't know.
Along the lines of...
No, you're testing.
Can't remember off the top of my head, but as soon as you say it, like...
It was, your job is to prepare for the future.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be that soon.
That quick.
There you go.
But
what's interesting in the Southgate book is I'm only at the beginning. I haven't had time to obviously read the whole thing. So he's talking about his Middlesbrough stint and basically how unprepared he was. He came straight as a player, didn't understand, what the management role entailed, how different the role is, how big the role is.
What year would that have been? Is that like early 2000s, is it?
2008, 7?
6 maybe, like 20 years ago. Like, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And he admits he wasn't prepared, he wasn't ready for it. Little tidbit, apparently Fergie sort of wanted them to veto him being allowed to do it because he didn't have the relevant qualifications. And at the time he said, he felt like, what's going on? This is
pro license.
Yeah, he didn't have the relevant. Yeah, and he said, looking back, Fergie was right. So it just shows you, like, experience counts. So I'm glad Carrick has done a stint at Middlesbrough at least. Before, like, if it had been Darren Fletcher coming in, I would have been very worried. Right? So at least Carrick's done a stint as manager, has got some experience. But I still think it's a big job ahead.
Yeah. In terms of that media requirement, Ash, I mean, you're saying it's one interview, but just generally the media requirement, not just any Premier League manager, but probably more so on Manchester United because we have more TV games, etc., is a massive responsibility, right? That has to be factored as part of the role as a whole. And obviously this is going to be new to Carrick in terms of the scrutiny. So any concerns on how Carrick can handle that?
Not really, actually, because as a player, he handled it brilliantly. Not just at Manchester United, Tottenham, West Ham. He was always under the radar.
Composed.
composed. You know, like when the West Ham Academy was full of Rio, Joe Cole, all of these superstars, Michael Carrick was the one that everyone always forgot to mention, even though he was a brilliant footballer. Ron will attest to this. At uni, I wanted Carrick to join United when he was at Spurs. So yeah, in terms of his composure and like, is he up to it from that perspective, from a media point of view? I think he's up to it. Does he want to interview every week? No, because he's a calm and like, quiet guy, unassuming, but he's got a great football brain. Everyone talks about, Paul Scholes talks about, like, I think he used the term Rolls Royce as a footballer, right? So in terms of the composure side and being up to that, I've got no problems. I remember actually seeing him on Match of the Day a couple of months ago after the Brighton game, actually, the Premier League one. And I think we'd just come off a 4-2 win. We had our friend Kim Maguire on the pod, and he was actually confident about what he was seeing. So it's good to see that actually now he can implement some of his ideas. And we're getting like Mbeumo and Ahmad back as well. So like, good time to take on Pep.
Yeah, it's an interesting few games. Obviously, a Manchester derby and then Arsenal away. So just going back to the Ollie point in terms of why Carrick might have got the nod over Ollie. So me and Ash did a instant reaction video earlier, and we discussed the fact that Carrick possibly works better for INEOS optically, because obviously we've gone through the Ollie route before. This is slightly new. So would you agree with that? That this kind
If it goes well, INEOS look like geniuses.
Yeah, and possibly Carrick would be a viable option for the perm if it went really well. Whereas Ollie, obviously, we've been down that route. So would you agree with kind of that point of it? Look, it's a better option for INEOS.
Yes, I don't know about the perm thing. Again, I do think we should be going a bit bigger, but you never know. Maybe the guy is an absolute legend.
If we finish top 3, for example, like overachieve.
What's the Rio phrase? Get whatever you want on that contract. Put it in front of him.
Where's the paper?
Yeah, I agree. I perceive. You know how I've always been saying to you, oh yeah, I'd love a Southgate Ollie. It'll never happen, because I perceive Jim Ratcliffe as a guy who would never make that decision. Because it feels like the Ollie era was somehow, people didn't appreciate him at the time. He's not a sexy name for a lot of people. And it just seems like a sensible decision, right? And I just think, it's not an exciting one for Jim. It feels like a bit, going backwards almost to someone who was perceived to have failed, which I don't agree with, but that is the perception around Solskjaer, because he never won a trophy.
Though, right? He's had 2 meetings with the board, Ollie, about the role. So, like, as soon as it happened, it was obviously on, I say INEOS, but yeah, Jim's radar, the fact that at least they should speak to Ollie, which in itself is like kind of pragmatic to what Az is saying, because like he's criticised, the previous regime for what they did, like the interim of the interim, and were they hiring the best in class and the right people? So he's obviously having a part in shot at even Ollie, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was listening back to the pod that we did last week for obviously quality control purposes, and it's actually funny.
Sensory control.
Yeah, well, we were saying that we don't think INEOS would go down the Ollie/Carrick route. So the fact that they did pretty much the next day, those were the routes they were looking at. Something that's been talked about a lot over the last week, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. I'll start by asking a question: what is the Manchester United DNA?
Yeah, I love that question, because it comes up a lot, and I think it's really misunderstood. I also think it means different things to different people, which I think is interesting, because I was thinking, for you, we've had lots of discussions, you and me, and I'm like, for Steve, actually, the Manchester United DNA is more like what I perceive the Chelsea DNA to be, which is to win football matches, right? And that was not what I grew up with, because we weren't the winning juggernaut in my youth. I've got the 91 retro top, which I also had as a kid. For me, and then there's the other thing of people look at, for example, Barcelona, and their DNA is very much around Cruyff, and it's quite tactical DNA.
Ajax as well? Is that it's
coming
Cruyff,
from
isn't
Ajax,
it?
from
Yeah.
Mikkels and Cruyff, who brings the total football philosophy to Barcelona. And so they see themselves as this kind of what we call positional play style of football, where you play the ball on the deck and you let the ball do the talking, right? And you see that in Guardiola's when Guardiola first joined City. Now his play now is being adapted to the Premiership. But it's all at the Premiership. Jim, you'll be loving me for that.
and Jim,
the Carlin Premier League.
But when I think about DNA, it's not about winning, and it's not about that. It's about and nothing specifically tactical, which is why I was like, I don't care about three at the back or whatever. For me, it's about attacking football, aggressive front foot football. I want to see dribblers. I always tell you about dribblers. I always think of Man United as Ryan Giggs and Lee Sharp. Like George Best taking the ball. That's why I was like, oh, when we signed Cunha and Mbeumo, they're Man United players to me. You know, when I see Ahmad going at the fullback, that's what I look for, right? Jason Wilcox in his heyday. Jason, if you're listening, you know, get that ball, take a fullback on, whipping a nice cross. So, and then the other thing I perceive with United is focus on youth and the academy. So when I think about when I saw Shea Lacey come on, that means something to me as a United fan, which is why other signings that we've made, we'll go, oh, but what about this random guy who, you know, like Aiden Heaven or Chido Obi? I like seeing us bring in unknown talents and then trying to develop them. They're the two things I think that are essential.
I would agree
with
that.
Club.
I mean, you say that I put winning high up there. I would probably put it third on that list. I agree with you. I'd say number one is attacking, exciting football, getting the crowd excited. Number two, academy, which is why I've been so big on Kobbie Mainoo this season, and it's killed me that he's not played. His second start only this season was against Brighton. But I would put winning number three because we have won in our history, across our history. So for me, I'd say those are the three values.
And the other maybe DNA. I don't know if it's DNA, but in our history and culture is making big signings. That's what I think about. Big, like a Brian Robson, like having the big name, because Man United, it always in its history had financial firepower all the way through because of Old Trafford, right, and a big fan base. So they're the three things I look why I love the club. Is attacking football, young players, and then mixed with big players.
Yeah.
Like that class of 92, where they talk about the class of 92, but then you had my hero Cantona in there, or Keane.
Yeah.
Right, Steve Bruce, like big names alongside the youth. And there's nothing specific tactical that I'm looking for. Yeah. But I want us to be on the front foot. And this is why I think in the talk of managers, we joke every podcast. I'm like, please not Marco Silva. Marco Silva is not a Man United manager. He's defensive. He's conservative. And I hope that when we look for the future, that we go, okay, who are the managers that are proactive? Even, for example, why I was a bit wary of Thomas Frank. I always said, but the Brentford way is this. Why I'm a bit wary of Oliver Glasner. Because, at Palace and at Frankfurt, it was more reactive. So that's what I'm thinking. Okay, who is the pro? And apparently Carrick was more proactive, right, at Middlesbrough. So I'm happy with that.
So can I want to pick up on a point you mentioned there about signing big players, because Ash, I was listening to the latest Talk of the Devils earlier, and our friend Carl Anker was talking about the DNA, hence why I wanted to talk about it with you guys. But Carl Anker brought up a book, and it was can't remember the book exactly, but it was the Barcelona and Ajax history and the traditions of their positional play, and it's very detailed in terms.
Simon Cooper.
That's the one. Right, yes, that's the one. I think he did this exact thing.
It's holding up my monitor at the moment, so if my monitor falls, it's in between Sir Alex Ferguson's autobiography and his leading book as well.
What's the book called?
It's called Inside Story of the World's Greatest Football Club. It's a very good book.
Okay, so it's on the reading list then.
This is the one. There you go.
Okay, nice.
Simon Cooper.
Right, yeah. So that's the book he talks about. So and he talks about the fact that Barcelona and Ajax, they have DNA, but it's very tactical. It's very detailed. And then Carl basically said, Manchester United, if you're going to talk DNA, if anything, you'd compare us more to Real Madrid. So Ash, would you agree with that in terms of our DNA?
Not quite, but I know where he's going with it, because it's not as linked to Barcelona and as Ajax. I'd say the big difference with Real Madrid is they sign historically the best players in the world, like globally. Whereas I think United traditionally have signed the best British players. So like, as talks about Brian Robson, we signed Roy Keane in the early 90s for a British transfer record. Rio Ferdinand, Wayne Rooney. That's what we've done. The global superstars, I'll be honest, like, unless Az can correct me, it started in the Ed Woodward era. And that's predominantly not only because lack of football knowledge, but to sell shirts. So whether it's an Angel Di Maria, a Paul Pogba, slightly different in that obviously he had a relation to United. But
would the comparison not be more, like you said, like we're not signing global stars, we're signing domestic stars, but almost like the eyeballs on the club, the aura, like is it not more
I think
of that?
that's probably where Carl's going with it, which is fair enough. The thing is with Ajax and Barcelona in particular, because it's Michel's, essentially it's his footprint on both football clubs, and obviously through Cruyff as well. So that's very detailed and structured, and there's rules, and it's been coached down the generations as well. Whereas attacking football, which is what United are, and like what we've been talking about, it's traditional attributes, fast football, wingers, as says dribblers, but also it's just wingers. Like, again, you can go back to yesteryear, to even the 80s when we didn't win that much in terms of league titles. We won cups. Norman Whiteside, like, speak to anyone from the 80s, they love Norman Whiteside. He's like Lee Sharp of like the early 90s for us in terms of that, magic, that imagination and the goals.
The interesting thing of United, only 3 Manchester United managers have won the
I knew
old
this was
First
coming.
Division, and you knew it was coming. Why? What am I gonna say?
No, not from you in particular, but like obviously Carragher's, he's bantered, and obviously he clearly thinks it. He's talked about how, like, I don't know, is it 5 or 6 Liverpool managers have won leagues over whatever 70, 80 years, whereas we've only got 2.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you take Busby and Ferguson together, what's that? What do you reckon, as 30 years in terms of winning league titles versus without Shankly, Bob Paisley and was it I can't remember, Joe Fagan, is it?
They're continuations.
They don't win
anyway.
as much as
Sorry, they're continuations of the same dynasty as well, right? So no, the point I was actually going to make is, so three managers, 2 of the big names, right? Busby and Fergie,
the only Knights.
Busby and Fergie, both in their eras, were known or not known, or had a reputation for being tactically average. So Busby, when he wins the European Cup in '68, the team realises or feels that this is the end. It's the last chance that they can get because football's moved on. There's a modernisation of football taking place, which is more tactical, and leads are coming up. And basically, Busby's philosophy was like, oh, I've got good players, they'll work it out. Okay, and that football was changing in the late '60s, in the mid '60s, and this was the end of it. And the Ramsey at the World Cup was very tactical, right? While Busby wasn't. Fergie as well. You won't remember this, but when I was watching in the '90s and we're going into Europe, we're constantly getting outwitted tactically by Italian clubs, for example, right? 99.
We know they
exception.
were on drugs now, but yeah,
but there was this idea. The idea
midfield,
of
right? We were
the 4-4-2 was
time.
naive. That actually you're outnumbered in midfield. There's 3 against 2 or 4 against 2, and you're and then we saw that as well when Fergie went up against Pep, and it was like, oh, they're running circles around us, right? So actually, when we think of DNA and our 2 only great managers, really, in that history, tactics was not part of it. Yep. It was squad building. It was youth. It was attacking football. It was flair. It was bringing in man management, and bringing in like a Cantona and managing him, or having a Best and managing him, and being able to unlock these great talents. So this is where maybe it is close to Real Madrid, because Real Madrid's a bit like, okay, I've got some great players, and Ancelotti was the guy who could unlock it, while today Xabi Alonso, the so-called tactical genius, has been fired.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? So this is why I'm like, that's why you need to differentiate. We do have a DNA. So when people laugh and say, oh, what DNA? What are you talking about? Yeah, right? Busby played a 2-3-5 and Fergie played a 4-4-1-1. right? It's like, no, it's not tactical DNA, but there is something that people associate with our club in its history, and it's about youth, and it's about both managers always used to say, oh, we've got a working class fan base who've worked hard. Now we need to entertain them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair. And like, I guess the reason we're having this conversation about DNA is there's clearly a feeling within the United fan base that we've diverged away from our DNA, because if we talk about the 3 points you made there, attacking football, academy and winning, we didn't see any of that under Ruben. So hence why that feeling, I've talked about my disconnection to the club. So I think that's the reason we're talking about DNA. And
You wanted Jose, do you remember? And I was so against Jose, and for those exact reasons. So why?
That's
This is
fair.
why I was questioning. Oh, Steve, you're more a Chelsea. When I think of Chelsea, I think, okay, whatever way it is to get to win the trophy, they revere Conte and Tuchel and Jose Mourinho, and I'm like, yeah, but was the football good?
Yep. But that was on the back of Van Gaal, where we didn't. A lot of the fans, I didn't enjoy the football massively. We weren't.
But I
winning.
wanted Pep. Do you remember? I was like, get Guardiola, and you were like, no, he doesn't know the Premiership or Premier League.
I'll tell you what. So when you were talking about Busby and Fergie there, the one thing I was thinking about, obviously I'm not young enough to have seen Busby, neither are you two, but from all the tapes that we see, the accounts we hear, the word that I think Fergie and Busby have in common, not being Scottish or not the fact that they're knighted, is stature. I think they both had stature. And I think for a Manchester United manager, stature is probably one of the biggest qualities you need. We've talked about the size of the club, right? Handling the media, handling the players. And I think stature is probably, one of the biggest points. And that's why, I've said my list, Carlo's number one. I think he has that stature. And like the DEI police won't be happy with me, but I almost think a United manager's got to look a certain way as well. Do you know what I mean on the touchline? Like, because we've heard the accounts now of, the players didn't like this manager, the players didn't respect him. It's all coming out the woodwork now that Ruben's gone. But I think there needs to be a respect for the manager as well, which it doesn't sound like Ruben had, to be honest, in hindsight.
Some of it's self-inflicted though when it comes to Ruben, because like as has talked about, like him complaining about the amount of interviews. You remember day one against Ipswich, he's getting interviewed and Ed Sheeran like comes across him to shake Jamie Redknapp's hand. He makes a point of saying, oh, there's so many interviews, and it's like, what did you expect, Ruben? Like, it's Manchester United. So like that worried us. Would you remember also, Steve, when look, it's fine to be honest and like you tell the truth from press conferences, but we flagged it up straight away when he was talking in Lisbon, and he was saying, I didn't want the job at this point. I wanted to have it in the summer, and we said like, just better not to say that, right? And you're right, Steve. United manager, it's not just about stature. It's about being a club man and, statesman-like. And that's what Sir Matt Busby and Sir Alex Ferguson done brilliantly. And that's another, big character attribute that we're going to need from the new guy. I think you're right. He has to carry massive stature and the statesmanship quality. My only concern with that, Steve, is that, my number one pick is Luis Enrique, and now that he's rejected the PSG contract, like
apparently, I think he's come out and said that's fake news, but yeah. So,
but like I said 6 months ago, like I do feel like that cycle will come to an end because he's won the European Cup anyway. So like, there's not much to do apart from back to back. So it's just a case of how long he wants to be in Paris. But I worry about the squad because that's the thing. Because like for a Carlo, Luis Enrique, Thomas Tuchel, even this is not a great squad for them.
Yeah. So like, I guess with DNA, how does Michael Carrick restore the Manchester United DNA as?
I think that's why it's a good choice, right? As this interim, if you look at what we did last time from Ollie to Rangnick's bringing some Red Bull, high pressing thing, and with Ronaldo in the team, it was never going to work. Carrick knows the club, understands the importance. You saw with Fletcher putting Lacey on, for example. He'll understand the importance of giving young players a chance and developing them. I'm sure we'll see more minutes for Kobbie Mainoo, for example, right?
Well, if there's anyone that can help Cobby mainly playing centre midfield, it's Michael Carrick, right?
Exactly, especially on the passing game, the bit we keep talking about that he needs to improve. I think he will, as I mentioned, the talk from Middlesbrough, I didn't watch any of his Middlesbrough games, or very few of them, was that he did play proactive football. That there was a front foot football that, he tried to take the game to the opposition. So I think you're going to get that from him. And he was like that as a player. If you look at what we always think about Carrick is looking for those forward passes. So I expect him to, want his team to get the ball forward, be less worried about, like I said, the Marco Silvas of this world sitting in a deep block and then, looking for mistakes on the counter, like Jose Mourinho. Why, I don't like Jose Mourinho. I think Carrick
Ollie? Was Ollie more counter-attack?
It's Ollie was never
mixed tactics, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's my belief is that in a big game he'd sit back and counter, a bit like Fergie, mixed tactics. When Fergie went up against Arsenal, right, we let them have the ball. No one went, "Oh, what are you doing, Fergie? This is we should be on the front foot." It was like, "No, this is smart. We're going to suck them in and we're going to destroy them," right? And then another game, we'll play in a lower level game, we'd have 70% possession and be battering them. And that's what Ollie was like. Some games we had a lot of the ball. Other games we gave the ball away. And we as fans just want to see goals. And how many times under Ollie we're like, oh, we've just won 4-1, right? 4 and 5 sometimes. Especially I remember some Europa League games. We were like smashing it. And under Ruben, it was like, win by 1 goal. And that's what I hope we'll go back to. And even under Fletcher, the Burnley game was a draw.
We should have won.
But we had created a lot of chances. That's why I even even under Ruben, the Bournemouth game, it was an absolute craziness, but I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was like, it could have been like 8-3 or whatever. And that to me is what I'm looking to get. And I think Carrick will bring a bit more control, I'm sure, than that Bournemouth game. But I expect him to, want to entertain the fans. Whether, as Ash mentioned, he has the squad to do it is what I've always been concerned about. I feel the playing talent isn't there. We need our players back from AFCON. We need some players back from injury. But Bruno's back. I saw Mount back. If we can get Mbeumo Ahmad back at some point. Sesko scored a couple of goals. Nice goals. Steve, the Burnley goals?
Yeah, 2 great goals.
I know you're not a fan of Sesko.
I mean, I'm not a fan. I just think he's not a Harry Kane, for example, in his prime, is he? But he's young, so I get it.
But do you see the potential? When you see glimpses like that, you're like, oh, physical specimen, good finishes.
He needed those goals against Burnley.
And then he scored another one, actually. I just thought, Brighton, he scored from the corner, right? So that's 3.
3
under Fletcher.
Last 2. Yeah.
So, get the ball in the box to your striker. I mean, one thing he suffered from is both Cunha and Mbeumo are very much look for their own shots type of player, right? Cunha, I think, do you remember our Christmas quiz where you said Cunha had the most shots in the Premier League?
Oh, yeah.
Was it Kiz? Sorry, did the quiz.
Yeah.
When you watch him, you're like, oh, the guy's always taking a shot. So I think, pass it a bit more to Sesko, hopefully. Carrick will, hopefully facilitate him a bit more. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm more optimistic about it than I was certainly with Rangnick coming in, because at least he's got coaching credentials. You talk about the stature on the sidelines. When he was there after Ollie, there was something that you felt.
Yeah.
Football's not just purely about results to me. Something about attachment to the club, people that you love, right? So I'm happy about it.
Yeah, fair enough. And people forget, right? Was it Pep when he came through at Barca? He'd only ever coached the B team, right? And then he got the Barca first team job. So let's hope Michael Carrick is our own Pep.
Do you want him permanent?
Well, let's see. In fact, I'll say it now. If we finish in the top 3, top 4, top 5.
Top 4, because I think Villa and City and Arsenal just have too many points, right?
But that's what I mean. If we finish top 4, it's like he's done well, like very well. Yeah. But if he finishes top 3,
that's above Liverpool, mate.
Oh yeah, no,
it'll be unbelievable.
It'll be a good achievement, but I think it's going to take,
especially with this squad. If he brought no bodies in, that would be unbelievable.
Well, you say that, but having been knocked out of the FA Cup now, we literally have 1 game a week, and that
it's 17 games till the end of the season now.
That's what I mean. So, on one hand, you can look at it and say an advantage, but I'm actually really disappointed that we're out of the Cup. I would have loved a Cup run.
This podcast is sponsored by Go Play Sports. the brand new mobile app changing the game for grassroots. Whether it's Sunday League or five-a-side, Go Play Sports makes it easy to track attendance, manage teams and cut out the manual admin. No more endless group chats, no more chasing payments, just turn up and play. Go Play Sports. Download now from your app store.
I broke my Old Trafford boycott this weekend because we couldn't sell the tickets.
Wow.
So I went down and managed to get people to use the tickets at least, so they didn't go to waste. So I was at Old Trafford yesterday and it wasn't great. You know, best chances falling to Dalot. Yeah, it was just another disappointing night at Old Trafford. And
How was the crowd, Steve? Because it didn't come across well on TV. Was it as quiet as it sounded?
Well, given my situation, I'm rushing down to Old Trafford last minute, not having planned it. But I heard Carl Anka saying it's the quietest he's heard Old Trafford in a while. Yeah, it was pretty quiet. Obviously, our seats are in the south stand, so it's not the most rowdy in there anyway. So it's always hard to tell. But I think the game kind of dictated it as well. We didn't create too much. We had a few chances here and there, and the mood was a bit flat. So I think the way the game played out also fed into that. I'm sorry, we should be beating Brighton at home in the FA Cup when it's the only cup competition we're left in. You got to be doing better than that, especially when your manager's just been sacked.
I agree at Old Trafford, but this is my, we're talking about the club generally, but I do think we've got a player quality problem. Šeško needs help, right? I said this last January. I think us even quoted it to talk about in a podcast. I said, if we don't sign a striker, this was last season, if we don't sign a striker, we're fucked. I don't think it's quite as bad this season, but we need a couple of bodies.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I was watching that game and the previous game as well, thinking, we could do an extra centre-back. This is just because I'm so used to watching back three that it just felt like there was just a body lacking in the penalty area. Everyone says, we're suited to... I do agree, generally, it's nicer to see a 4-2-3-1 shape and put Bruno in the number 10. But I keep saying, the reason Bruno's playing deeper, he's the one guy who can pass the ball forward. So you put him further up, you will lose that ability to get the ball forward. I keep telling you, Kobbie Mainoo's passing still needs a lot of work, right? And he still couldn't penetrate as much. And I keep saying, look, I don't trust our defenders, it's centre-backs in a two that a third man is required to shore that up. So I was not surprised.
I think it's excuses, though, as not you per se, but even for the players, because you take the second goal. We'll start with the first goal quickly, right? Dalot's positioning is just horrendous. So he comes out to the ball. He doesn't put a tackle in. His body shape is all wrong in terms of if you are going to, face up the player. And then he just allows him to pass the ball. So he's done nothing in that scenario.
Hasn't that happened 8 times this season?
Yeah.
It's every time the same. How many goals we going? Why didn't Dalot block the cross? It's literally just boring.
When we talk about
Diego
these
Dalot
games,
should not be in the team. I've always said, Mazraoui is a far superior player to Dalot. Far superior.
And hopefully, once he's back from AFCON, he'll be starting more. I mean, this is one good thing with Ruben gone, is that hopefully the Dalot, picking.
Can I just give you
reduces.
A tweet about Dalot that is quite funny? So if you put Dalot's brain into a horse, he would bark like a dog. I think that sums it up quite well, to be fair.
But quickly on the second goal as well, that was a really poor goal, and I don't want to get all Alan Hansen, but
terrible defending, absolutely terrible.
Where was he? Where was he? The ball is played to Welbeck, and he's pushed up. It's ridiculous.
Was it Martinez? Who was the defender?
Yes. Brighton have the ball on the touchline. The ball's played into Welbeck, who's in and around the edge of the box.
Yeah.
Martinez is near midfield.
Yeah.
Welbeck's able to turn on the ball. And Yoro's in a bit of a weird situation at the moment because he's in poor form, but he's not helped. He really isn't. And this is the thing. You can argue about having a third centre back covers for gaps and stuff, but some of these players, they've got to do better. Some of these guys are experienced guys. Yeah, Dalot, Martinez. I've got more sympathy for like a Yoro or even a Dorgu, right? Because like Dorgu played left back yesterday. You know, one tactical thing I was thinking about, right? Because we are in January. Obviously, we all said in the summer on multiple restaurants in Bilbao and San Sebastian about, our number one choice of position was midfield. We do obviously need one, but if we can't get one for all sorts of different reasons, trying to transition the ball quickly through midfield into a Bruno or the front three is the way to go for the rest of the season, because otherwise we're going to have problems if we're going to try and do like big build up.
Are you talking like a Michael Carrick pass through the lines?
Yeah.
That's literally that's what we need.
That's what Martinez is good at. That's the one thing of his game. He's excellent. But just again, like in a 2, you're leaving yourself a bit vulnerable defensively. So that Martinez, to the left back or into Cunha, or into Bruno, that's a ball that's on. But I personally, as I trust my De Ligt and my Maguires as proper defenders.
Where
we
is
need
De
them back.
Ligt?
Don't know, but he started the season really well. I think he's a big loss. Yeah, we haven't looked the same without him in the defensive situations. Be interesting to see. Yeah, Carrick midfielder, no natural midfielder. And we keep talking about we need to replace Michael Carrick. Well, we have replaced Michael Carrick with Michael Carrick as the manager, but he can't play. Ugarte just not good enough on the ball, so he's not going to play. Be interesting to see if he goes with a 3, with the Casemiro, Mainu, Bruno combination, and whether, Cobby. I think Cobby, lovely as a dribbler, so good in tight spaces. Can Carrick? I know when Carrick was under Ollie, he spent a lot of time with Fred, and Cobby's a lot more talented than Fred in terms of passing. So that could be a great 6 months for Cobby.
I've got a question for both of you, seeing this is partly one of the reasons why Ruben erupted with Jason Wilcox. So obviously we tried to get Semenyo, and I think the deal was 65 million. Would you guys spend that allocation of money now if you could? And do you have any names on positions or players?
Well, just firstly on that point, again, I think Talk of the Devils were talking about this. Obviously, we went in for Semenyo, great talent, but, it's not just a case of that budget is available for another player. It's because it was Semenyo, they were willing to possibly push that extra bit. So do I expect there to be 65 million available this January? No. But if it is, you're probably better to answer that in terms of who we could sign.
I don't know who's available, because we talked about midfield and we've always talked about the names that we like, right? Is Wharton's probably not available for 65 million in January?
Maybe after Macclesfield knocked them out of the FA Cup, his price might have come down by 10 million.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the summer he'll be available for that type of level. I don't know if we, what did we end up being asked for Belieber? And he's not had the best season, right?
100 million, I'm sure it was.
Yeah, I think all of those Premier League ones, not till the summer.
Yeah, so I don't know who's
Belieber, Elliot Anderson,
who's knocking around
Adam
in
Wharton.
terms of.
It's going to be a loan, I reckon, more likely a loan. And also, again, we're knocked out of the FA Cup. We have one game a week. I really wouldn't expect. I'd be surprised if we do any business in Jan. We have players coming back from AFCON.
We usually get linked with Adrian Rabiot at some point. So.
And
his mum seems to get in the way of things.
Doing the deal. I actually thought Conor Gallagher was available on loan, but now I'm seeing like he's linked with Tottenham and Aston Villa for like 40 million. But look, he's not a passer, but I just thought when I was talking bodies.
Some legs in midfield.
Yeah, for a loan, but that doesn't look likely.
Who's the bald guy we had on loan as well for a little while? Played in the FA Cup.
Sofian Amrabat.
Amrabat, where's he?
Didn't he do well? I'm sure he done well when he left United.
I've got a name for you, Steve. I'm going to pull one right out the hat.
It's going to be an oldie.
You're going to absolutely love this name.
It's going to be an oldie. Go on.
How about we get on the blower to Saudi and ask for Ruben Neves?
Oh, okay.
He's my boy.
Steve loves Ruben Neves.
We'll promise them Bruno in the summer for the rebuild.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like part of the deal.
He would do a job. He would definitely do a job.
Can we have Neves for 6 months and we'll give you Bruno in the summer?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we might do one deal or two deals here or there, but I'm not expecting anything. I just think we need to just work with the squad we've got, really, and get through to the summer.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we did go in for Semenyo, right? So
Yeah.
I'm surprised. That just shows there is some ambition there, because you would have thought, have you got enough attackers? Do you need another attacker? But
Yeah.
clearly a player they rate really highly.
We kind of messed it up, though, because we went for him in the summer, and apparently Ruben and Jason Wilcox had dinner with him. I don't know if it was together, but like they met him. So they obviously had clear plans for him. And obviously Ruben was very pissed off that we didn't get him. But yeah, obviously I think what happened was Bournemouth wanted 70 million. We weren't willing to go to that level. And then we went to go and get Brian. And yeah, we weren't far off. I think it was 65 plus 5, right? As in the end,
Was it
checked
80
the
on the
other
last pod? According to you.
No, I was making up. The point of that point was simply the fact that we overpaid when you were saying that INEOS do good deals.
What about you, Ash? Like, what are you expecting to do business this Jan?
No, I'm not expecting it, but I would certainly look to, because I do worry like what we would end up, league-wise without a couple of positions. Like, even if you were to offer me an extra centre-back and a striker of some description, both on loan or whatever, right? Not trying to touch the summer budget too much. I'd definitely do it.
Isn't the squad too big now? We haven't got
It
enough
is, but
games.
but injuries.
I used to always
we
say
don't factor
about
injuries
bodies
enough.
because of Europe. So I always be like,
No, but it's
Igalo, good
injuries.
signing because Europa League. You need bodies for the Europa League, right?
Injuries. Simple
Yeah,
as
but
that.
once the
Maguire
AFCON
gets
boys
injured
come
too
back-
much. No, but Maguire gets injured too
If
much.
you're playing, let's
I'm
say
not
you're playing
blaming him.
a back four, yeah? So two centre backs. You're
Yeah.
saying Maguire, you got Delict, you got Martinez, you got Yoro, you got Heaven. How many centre backs do you need?
Yeah, but Martinez is always a cruciate away. He's had two, and like,
Yeah,
but you got a squad plan, right? We don't do this. This is why. Mount's always injured. Luke Shaw, to be fair, he's done well this season. He needed a rest, obviously, yesterday. But like, we do get injuries.
I would agree with you, Ash, as well, because we went into this season saying, "Oh, no Europe, and we should benefit from that." But we've seen
what benefits have we seen?
However, getting knocked out the FA Cup is quite significant. Not just the fact that we've got less games, but we had 22 cup games last season, maybe half of them at Old Trafford. In terms of revenue, we've lost a fair chunk of revenue this season, and obviously FFP, right? So the budget is going to be impacted through the loss, getting knocked out the FA Cup as well, right?
Yeah, which is why qualifying for Europe next season is just, crucial. It's
Pivotal.
absolutely crucial. Pivotal was the word that I was looking for. Yeah. I know Mount, like, we're talking about like Mount getting injured, for example. Let's play Lacey. Looks good. Got the kid. We just talked about the DNA.
No, I'm talking striker. I think Šeško needs help. Mate, forget Xerxes. Like, he's good. He's fine as a body.
If you can move Xerxes on, then bring Šeško in. If you can't move Xerxes on, you can't have another guy, because you got Cunha can play up there and Mbumo can play up there. Right, and then
not if they're not scoring goals.
But we got a lack
but
of
Mbumo and Cunha, will find their form again. Then you got Ahmad.
We'll see with Cunha, because like he's got 4, I think.
But we're lacking width. We're lacking width, right? So you want possibly some of those players on the wing. Obviously, Ahmad will be on the wing, but even one of Cunha or Mbumo is going to be on the wing, surely.
I was thinking this, Steve, the other day, actually, because like Ahmad and Mbumo are coming back, and then like you're going to get your wish. Like in certain games, Brian is going to play on the left.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day as well, and you two taking the piss out of me in the team of the season. But that is actually the one position. If we're going to get a loan, I would back a striker, because if you can put the ball in the net, that can get you, an important win, which can move you up the table. That is the one position I would probably back. I mean, I don't know who it would be.
What striker? That's what I mean.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Who are you going to get that is going to make a significant impact? And when I said back in the day, oh, it's good to get Igalo as a body, it's for Europa League. We don't have Europa League. Premier League games, you need Premier League
there's
quality.
a striker that can get you like 5 net goals for the season, trust me, it'll be worth it. Like, not as a loan, right? There
Yeah.
must be a striker. Look, I don't work for United. If my full-time job was scouting, I could give you a list of names.
Did you
But
see Henrik Larsson was on the overlap this week, and obviously
I need to watch that. What did he say?
well, just the fact that United got him on loan, right, in this January period, and it was like 3-4 months. It was I think it was the 06-07 season. So even in that season when we had Rooney and Ronaldo, obviously we're in more competitions, but it would be, I'm not saying go to the Swedish league, but it would be either an older player that scored around Europe, or it's going to be
There will be strikers around Europe or the world where you could get on loan. They'll come to United for 6 months.
Let me give you a
and
call.
I think they could score some goals.
I'm giving you another call into Saudi. How about the Ruben Neves,
Benzema.
Ivan Toney combination?
Yeah.
Tony, yeah. Benzema.
The only problem is he will have problems with HRMC, I think, because I don't think he's been in Saudi long enough. But yeah.
Okay. Even a Benzema, you know, like.
What about Cristiano?
What?
The final cameo.
If we got Ollie,
Michael
well, that will
Carrick.
bring up the revenue.
No, Carrick gets on well with Ronaldo.
Yeah, he managed him pretty well. He
Yeah.
dropped him against Chelsea. You remember when he had the 3-game stint at Stamford Bridge?
Yeah.
Did you go to that game?
No, I didn't. But I think Carrick's got the best win ratio on record for any United manager. But obviously, it's a small sample size.
It's going to ruin that very quickly, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Poor guy.
Well, he won away in Villarreal. Like, again, historically for United, winning in Spain is very difficult.
Yeah. So before we just look ahead to the rest of the season, I think the objective is quite clear. There's just one area I want to touch on briefly, because I've been telling you guys since the start of the season that in the next 12 months, there's going to be some ownership movement, the early signs of it. And for me, I can start to see the perfect storm brewing. So part of that storm is obviously the fact that we've had to sack our manager. If you look across socials this last week, the scrutiny on Wilcox, Barada, Ratcliffe has been huge, even though we've been pointing this out on the pod for months. The second thing, I think probably the most crucial thing, is the fact that INEOS's core business is not the healthiest at the moment. We know that they've exited other sporting ventures such as sponsorship for the All Blacks, the Tottenham sponsorship.
Nearly went to court.
Yeah, nearly went to court over that, and there's talk that they're trying to sell Nice. So I think that's actually a big factor. But one area I want to get your insight on is a new story that came out a few weeks ago, shared by our friend Kieran Maguire, and again just talking about INEOS's core business. And a couple of the points that were mentioned in this story, I will just read out to you, and maybe you can help explain this to the listeners that don't follow finance as closely as we do. But the debt rating agencies inflicted further misery on INEOS with a series of downgrades this year that risk compounding its financial strain by making it more expensive to borrow. Moody's has lowered its rating on INEOS twice since September. The most recent downgrade, just earlier in December, followed publication of the company's financial results. So I think you used to work for one of the debt rating agencies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Can you help explain that?
Well, I didn't work in the rating agency itself, but what would you like to know? I can tell you about finance.
So what does that mean then, in terms of two downgrades on
credit
their debt
rating?
rating?
Credit rating's basically just an independent view of a company's creditworthiness, their likelihood to pay back, essentially, on their debt. INEOS is what we would call high yield or leveraged as a company, has been for a while. I don't know where the rating is now. It was BB. Maybe it's gone down to
highly leveraged means like lots of loans.
Okay, highly leveraged means that the amount of debt they have relative to the income they have, right, is quite high. A bit like if you think about you as an individual when you have a mortgage in a house. What does your income look like in terms of, your job, and how much is the amount of the cost of the loan that you've taken out? INEOS generally has a lot of debt, and it's just the business model they run. A lot of companies do run this model. It's quite, prevalent, especially in modern times in the influx of private equity. So the private equity business model is get a company, leverage it. The Glazers, very similar. Right, get an entity that has good cash flows, leverage it up. You can still pay that back over time. So INEOS is one of those companies. Their base business is chemicals. right? So they make a lot of like plastics and refinery of petrochemicals. So I think the pellets that go into creating, I don't know, plastic bottles and stuff, etc. But obviously we know about things like the UK and Russia situation causing energy prices to go up. So the European energy market isn't great. That doesn't help when it comes to chemicals. So their business is, they've got some American business, but it's quite large in Europe. So yeah, clearly, I haven't actually looked at these financials. If you want, we could do a deep dive on INEOS at some point, and I can actually go and study it and have a closer look, because sort of the leveraged finance space is one that I
How
kind
often
of
does that
work
happen
in.
where you'd see 2 downgrades in the space of 3 months? Is that concerning?
That is concerning. Yeah, so it does
But it
show
does
a
happen
downward
though.
trend.
Like
It
they're
does
not the
happen,
first
yeah.
company. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm not massively surprised, but yeah, it's definitely concerning because of the way the global economy is at the moment. Like, if you
They
want to,
had a terrible time during the previous financial crisis, but they restructured
yeah,
their way out of it,
Yeah.
yeah,
right? So,
But my point is, their core business is obviously not in the greatest position. Jim's got 1.25 billion worth of equity at the time that he invested tied up in United. So this is what I mean by the perfect storm. It's starting to brew. There's also the 1958, which is the supporters group which organised, some of the protests over the last 5 years. I think when that Liverpool game got called off 3-4 years ago, a lot of them were involved in that. So this is what I mean by the perfect storm. It's starting to brew. We know about the Glazers, we're looking at full sale 2-3 years ago. So yeah, I do think in these next 6 to 12 months, it's going to get very, very interesting now that the scrutiny has started to turn onto the ownership. Because, for example, and we have to talk about this, if Carrick doesn't work out, let's say we do finish 8th, 9th, we have a drop off. Can you imagine the state of the fan base and the club in the summer? I don't think they'll even care about who the next permanent manager is too much.
yeah. I mean, the issue is there will be a storm, but fans will still turn up to Old Trafford like they have for the last 13 years.
Yeah, they will, but the mood of the fan base, having experienced the last 13 years, there's already a bit of that mood now of like, does it even matter who the next manager is?
I think there's a lot of apathy, especially at Old Trafford. I think that was represented pretty well yesterday. It's like you hope you should be able to beat Brighton at home, but once the first goal goes in, we didn't play that well, and then once Welbeck, pretends to be R9, then yeah, like I don't even really feel anger. Like I'm not like on social media enough to know 100%, but like the fans I speak to, there's just more apathy than anger.
I'm looking at the fixtures. I was thinking we need some. Yeah, do you remember Ten Hag came in and it looked like a shit show, and then Sancho did that lovely move and
Liverpool.
was it James Milner? He sat down and then
I
stuck
think
it
so.
past Alisson.
Yeah.
It's a Manchester derby coming up. It's a Manchester.
Yeah.
Tell you what,
Look
Michael
what the following
Carrick
weekend
walks
is.
out. Then we got Arsenal going to the Emirates, right? That's 2 games where you don't fancy us, like you didn't fancy us against Liverpool. You pull out a result there, the fan base will turn very quickly to being positive.
That's true. Yeah. It's obviously results driven, so yeah, a win against one of those teams will lift the fan base. So yeah, it
That's
could
what
go
you
either
need.
way.
You need a momentum shift. What was interesting, I felt reading body language after the Brighton game, the players looked absolutely very deflated. Right? They need a lift. There needs to be something to just turn it round. If it doesn't, we could be down the Rangnick route again, where it just feels like you're playing out the season and it's just miserable.
Steve, one thing I've noticed with the chat, the Let's Kick It Off community group, especially the United one, I've heard the words Jason Wilcox and ego pop up over the last couple of days, and I haven't read too much over the last few days, but yeah, I'm starting to think about it more now, and it's obviously this famous meeting before the Leeds game. It's one hell of a fallout, right? Because obviously they never had a plan to fire him.
Yeah, which is proven by the fact that they've had to do this process over the last
this
week.
Process, right? Like that's all you need to know. So this wasn't planned. Like I said, it's one hell of a fallout, and you just wonder, like, what the hell was said in that meeting for Wilcox to come to the decision where he goes to his mate Omar Barada that, Ruben needs to be fired at this point. Because, I've made it clear, and I've got no problem with it, and I said it many a time on the pod recently, like, even right, I would replace Ruben in a heartbeat, but I've always said there's a time and place to do it. And I think I even said on the New Year's resolution pod, like, happy to wait till the summer to do it, right? Like, this was obviously never in the plan. So, like, need to find out details about, like, what happened there.
Yeah, agreed. It was weird time, and I've been thinking
Didn't we
about...
have a 5,000-page Athletic article that I haven't read yet? Surely they did one.
Yeah, but...
They've done one, but, like, to be fair to them, like, it's a great article, but it doesn't... We still don't know... what was it? The fact that Ruben said to Jason Wilcox, go fuck your mum, right? We don't know.
Well, the only thing, I think it was from the Athletic article, is after the meeting, Ruben basically said, I need to leave, I'm going to call my agent. Hence why the comments, pre and post Leeds kind of make sense, especially the post Leeds comments. Like, he's almost, really, really putting it on the board to fire him. I think the next few weeks are going to be interesting, obviously, with the derby and Arsenal away. We will obviously have more time on the podcast to probably go back and talk about this as more details come out. But I think for now, let's just end with a prediction for the derby, as I could sense you trying to build up the positive vibes there. So I'll let you go first on your prediction for the derby. Michael Carrick's first game.
Honestly, I mean, City should win this game, right? They're the far superior team. They're going for the league. But I don't want to say positive. I want to say I'm delusional. I always believe in the players. I always believe we can pluck something out. Backs against the wall. Big game. 2-1 United. Out of nowhere, Harry Maguire.
There's your striker. There's your striker,
exactly.
Ash.
Do you see Maguire and Sesko unstoppable at the back post? I mean, how do you defend that?
I love Fletcher had to resort to that as well.
What about you, Steve?
I have got a sneaky feeling that we might get something as well. And again, it could be delusional, it could be the heart, but I'll go draw. I'll go 1-1. We get a result, which you'd probably take. So Ash, leaves it with you.
Az took my 2-1, so I'll go 2-2, and we score in the last minute to equalise.
Oh, a little Desmond.
Cool. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Hopefully no more bombshells to happen this week. We expect Carrick to be confirmed. And then, we have the Manchester derby. So we'll have a podcast next week, which will be fun once again. So thanks for tuning into this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one.